So we're going to talk a bit about fecal or bowel incontinence. Can you tell us a little bit more about what this is, Emily, and what symptoms we might experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So unfortunately 1 in 10 women experience an inability to either hold wind, hold solid stool or liquid stool. So any combination of those is termed fecal incontinence or bowel incontinence. There's lots of different reasons as to why, so it can be due to weak pelvic floor muscles, so the little ring of muscles around the back passage called the anal sphincter. That can weaken as we get older. It can weaken if we've had any obstetric anal sphincter injuries with childbirth. And if that muscle's a little bit weak, it's not going to hold the stool or the gas in quite so well, so people can start to get a little bit of leakage then. It can be down to constipation, and lots of sort of straining on the toilet can weaken the muscles, but also with constipation you can sometimes get a looser stool and get a bit of an overflow incontinence. Stress and anxiety can contribute, so the bowel is a bit of an emotional organ, the gut is an emotional organ. Stress and anxiety can have sort of the effect of kind of causing constipation or loose bowel movements. Looser bowel movements are much harder to control, and so people can start to get sort of a real urge, need to go, have to rush to get there, get some leakage on the way. Ignoring sort of the cue to stool, so 15 minutes after we have our first meal or drink of the day, a peristaltic action starts to happen where the stool starts to move around the bowel, ready for us to empty our bowel. If we ignore that sort of urge to go when we get it, over time our body starts to just ignore it, and our bowels then get out of routine. People tend to get this if they're anxious about using a toilet in public, or if they're at work, or if they've had babies and they don't have time to go to the loo. But over time that can cause a bit of a chronic constipation and cause issues as well.
Do you have any tips on how to help with this? How to make our bowels a bit happier?
Yeah, absolutely. So if the loose stool is the issue, essentially we want to try and improve stool consistency. So a looser stool is going to be much harder to control than a normal type 4 smooth sausage. So improving stool consistency can really help. So looking at diet, looking at stress management can be really helpful for that.
And would pelvic floor exercises, are they relevant? Are they the same thing for the bladder as they are the bowel?
Yeah, absolutely. So sort of alongside that, we'd want to be trying to get the muscles that control stool and wind much stronger. So the posterior part of the pelvic floor, kind of the anal sphincter muscles, we need to start to try and strengthen those. So to activate those muscles as part of the pelvic floor, trying to imagine that you're stopping yourself from breaking wind or leaking urine. So you're pulling that little ring of muscles closed around the back passage area and lifting. And we want to try and work that muscle to fatigue several times a day. Do a mixture of shorter holds where you're squeezing and releasing down, squeezing and releasing down, and longer holds as well. So we're working those endurance fibres by squeezing and holding and breathing. You can start with maybe holding for 2 or 3 seconds, but building it up to kind of 10, and repeating up to 10 times as well. So if we're getting those muscles stronger, they're going to control those things a little bit better. Fecal incontinence manifests in different ways, so people sometimes struggle to get clean, or they might just have like a sort of smear on their underwear. They might get some urgency where they're kind of rushing to get there, they're not quite making it on time. And you can also get sort of passive leakage as well, where you're sort of leaking bowel movements but not feeling that it's happening. So yeah, there are different sort of things that kind of cause it, but coming to see a physiotherapist can really, really help.
So the key thing is there's lots of things that we can do to
there's
help.
Lots of simple tips and tricks that can really help with fecal incontinence. People often get very anxious about opening up about it, but once people do, we can help.